Stuart Hall's theory of representation. Stuart Hall's theory of representation explains how we make sense of the world around us through language, images, and symbols. Hall, a renowned cultural theorist, was interested in how meaning is created and shared in society. He argued that representation goes far beyond simply describing or mirroring reality. Instead, he believed it is an active process that shapes how we see, understand, and interact with the world. Representation, in simple terms, is the use of language, signs, and images to stand for or depict things. For example, a photograph of a tree represents the tree, even though it is just an image. But representation is not limited to pictures, it includes all forms of communication, like words, music, body language, and even fashion. According to Hall, representation is central to culture because it helps us make meaning out of everything. Without it, we would have no way to understand or communicate complex ideas. Hall's theory is unique because he did not believe that representation was a straightforward process. In his view, there is no single, fixed meaning that every person can agree on. Instead, meaning is constructed, created, and shaped by culture and social context. So, when we see a symbol or hear a word, it means something to us not just because of what it is, but because of how we have learned to interpret it. One of Hall's main ideas is that representation is about producing meaning. He often used the word encoding to describe how meaning is created by the sender, like a filmmaker, writer, or speaker, and decoding to describe how the audience interprets that message. This idea suggests that representation is not just about what the sender means but also about how the audience understands it. Hall pointed out that this process can lead to multiple interpretations, especially when different people or groups view things through various cultural lenses. Hall believed that language plays a big role in shaping meaning, but he expanded language beyond spoken or written words to include all types of symbols and images that convey meaning. For example, a flag is a piece of cloth, but it holds powerful meaning and emotions because of what it represents for people. Similarly, brands like Nike or Apple are more than just companies, they carry meaning, identity, and cultural messages. In this way, Hall's theory explains how language and symbols give us a way to organize and make sense of our world. An important part of Hall's theory is that representation is never neutral or objective. Since meaning is created by people, it can be influenced by those who hold power or who wish to shape the views of others. For example, media outlets, advertisements, and even governments often have their own messages and motives. Through representation, they can influence what we think about certain topics, groups, or even countries. Hall noted that this creates a power dynamic in which those who control representation have significant influence over how people view reality. One of Hall's big contributions to cultural studies was his idea that representation involves representation. This means that the media and other cultural tools do not just show reality as it is. They reshape and represent it in certain ways. For example, think about a news report on a protest. Depending on the way it is filmed, the angle of the camera, and the language used by the reporter, the same event can look like a peaceful gathering or a chaotic riot. This representation shapes how audiences see and understand the event, showing how powerful representation can be. Another important part of Hall's theory is the concept of stereotypes. He argued that stereotypes are a simplified, often exaggerated way of representing people, groups, or ideas. While stereotypes are not always completely untrue, they often present an oversimplified or distorted version of reality. Hall saw stereotypes as dangerous because they limit how we see people, and they create fixed ideas about them that are hard to change. For example, stereotypes about certain nationalities, races, or genders can limit individuals from being seen as they truly are. According to Hall, this is harmful because it reduces complex human beings to a single, usually negative, idea. He believed that media and society often reinforce these stereotypes, making them difficult to break. Hall's theory of representation is also closely linked to the concept of identity. He believed that identity is not something fixed or stable but something that is constructed and changed over time. He argued that the way we see ourselves and others is influenced by representation in the media, literature, and popular culture. For example, someone who constantly sees images of success in media that show wealthy, well-dressed people might start to feel that success only looks one way, even though it is a personal journey that can mean different things to different people. Hall also argued that identity is a process of becoming rather than being. This means that our identities are not something we are born with or something that stays the same. They are shaped by our experiences, our culture, and the representations we see around us. So, if we are constantly exposed to certain images or messages about what it means to be successful, beautiful, or powerful, these ideas start to influence how we see ourselves and our place in the world. A significant idea in Hall's theory of representation is the distinction between denotation and connotation. Denotation is the literal meaning of a word or image, while connotation is the additional meaning, ideas, or emotions that it carries. For example, if we see an image of a rose, the denotation is simply a flower. But the connotation might include love, romance, or passion. Hall emphasized that these connotations are culturally constructed, meaning that they are not universal. They depend on the context and culture of the audience. This shows how representation is shaped by social factors and not just the thing itself. One of the challenges Hall addressed in his work is the idea of encoding and decoding. Encoding is the way that creators of content put meaning into their messages, while decoding is how audiences interpret that meaning. This process is not always straightforward. A filmmaker might encode a film with a specific message, but viewers might decode it differently based on their own experiences, beliefs, or cultural background. Hall identified 3 types of decoding: the dominant or preferred reading, where the audience interprets the message as the creator intended; the negotiated reading, where the audience partly agrees but may interpret some parts differently; and the oppositional reading, where the audience completely disagrees or interprets the message in a way that was not intended. Through these ideas, Hall showed that meaning is not fixed and is always open to interpretation. This helps us understand why different people can have different responses to the same movie, advertisement, or piece of news. Hall's theory empowers audiences to think critically about the representations they see and question the intended messages behind them. Hall's work on representation is still highly relevant today. In our world, filled with media and technology, representation plays a huge role in shaping our understanding of reality. Advertisements, news stories, movies, and social media posts all contribute to our perception of the world. Hall's theory encourages us to think about who controls these representations and what messages they are trying to send. It pushes us to question the way different groups are represented and to challenge stereotypes, power imbalances, and narrow ideas of identity. Stuart Hall's theory of representation helps us see that we are not passive recipients of information. We are active interpreters who bring our own experiences, beliefs, and backgrounds to the meaning-making process. Representation is a powerful tool that influences not only how we see the world but also how we see ourselves and others. By understanding Hall's ideas, we can be more aware of the power of media and cultural messages, and we can learn to approach representation with a critical eye. If you found this exploration of Stuart Hall's theory of representation helpful and interesting, please give this video a like and subscribe for more content like this. Thank you for watching.